Chapter 766, Shinsong Jing. The divine punishment caused by Nieting's breakthrough was so powerful that all Class A's had been attracted there. Thus, how could Coral miss it? Although Coral was the master of gods of the deities and she had no connection with the heavenly network nor the Golden Foundation, she had come for Lu Shu. According to her cousin, Li Xianyi and Lu Shu used to be good neighbors. Hence, it was apparent which side she should help. However, her face turned frosty upon seeing the bishop. Suddenly, energy exploded in her gungner, and she hurled it out towards the bishop with no hesitation. The long-standing enmity between the deities and the Department of Faith Theory had to be traced back to ages ago. A battle would have broken out between the two at Sardinia if the bishop had not retreated via the sea with his team before Coral arrived in the southern parts of the island. Nonetheless, the bishop decided not to encounter her head-on. He flew away immediately before Gungner could reach him. In fact, his initial intention was simple. He wanted to slay Nieting and obtain his body amidst the chaos. However, now that the puppet masters had pulled out of the battle, the winds had turned against him. Seeing that his chances of winning were low, the bishop had decided to withdraw as well. A Class A could always escape easily unless he was trapped in a siege. Blasts of shockwaves exploded between the saint and Chenbaili. However, neither of them could obtain an upper hand. In a split second, Nieting had dashed into the thunderstorm. He battled the lightning fiercely, resulting in the entire world shaking under the immense impact. Having seen this, the saint pulled back from the fight with Chenbaili immediately. Even the craze in his eyes had faded gradually. All of the Class A's were crystal clear what they should do upon witnessing Nieting's breakthrough. The sky seemed to be on the brink of collapse. Instead of pursuing his rival, Chenbaili turned his gaze towards the dispersing clouds with a grave look on his face. No one had expected that Nieting would be able to confront the divine punishment straight on. Deep in his heart, Chenbaili knew that he himself would not have been able to survive it. Nieting had truly lived up to his name as the first man in the East. To him, defying the heaven was not that difficult after all. However, he would destroy the entire world if he kept on slashing like this. All of a sudden, the puppet master's words echoed across everyone's heart. This world is too weak. Now that Nieting had ascended beyond Class A, he could flatten a mountain with a simple wave of his arm. Thus, his power had become too much for this frail space. At this moment, Nieting was able to disobey the laws of nature because he himself was a set of governing rules. Without any warning, Nieting stopped. He also knew the potential danger that might follow his current action. Besides, no one knew what could happen when the space fell apart. He had reached a state where he could not make any unrestrained moves. As he slowly descended back onto the earth, Li Xianyi looked at him and said with a smile, "Give a name to this new state of yours." In the past, the various states were classified by Class A to F, which was a system first proposed by the foreigners. But now, Nieting could name the new state as he pleased since he was the first man in history to have achieved this feat. Tempestuous waves of energy rolled in Nieting's body, but all of them were fully under his control. "Shinsong Jing 1, replied Nieting. His black cloak fluttered in the wind, like a flag of victory and power. On this day, black soils were turned onto the surface of the grassland, and the space had almost been shattered apart. It was this day when Nieting confronted the divine punishment with his blade and defined Shinsong Jing for the first time. At Lu Shu's home, he was sitting on his couch and reading the new messages on his phone. This time, all the details of the battle were made available to the senior levels of the heavenly network, including Nieting defining Shinsong Jing. Surprisingly but unsurprisingly, Lu Shu had been quietly recognized as a part of the senior levels, even though he was still a cultivation college student. It sounded strange, but a mere student like him indeed carried a rather significant role. Lu Shu was in deep thought. Now he learned that the breakthrough required one to integrate the power of the world with himself following his resonance with the heaven and earth. Furthermore, the meaning behind Shinsong Jing was clear as it literally meant a state in which a god resided in oneself. In other words, Nia Ting was saying that he himself was a god. Certainly, though, it was an exaggeration because at the very least, Nia Ting had discovered that this was not the end yet. It seemed that the path of cultivation had no destination. That's insane, Lu Shu mumbled. It appeared that he had really helped Nia Ting with his breakthrough. Nonetheless, there were many points in the report that Lu Shu found inexplicable. For example, he had received a random congratulations message from Li Xianyi after the fight, but the latter refused to explain why. Lu Shu was utterly confused. Why did he send that message? Was Li Xianyi happy for him because he had helped Nia Ting with his breakthrough? By right, it should be a piece of good news that someone from the heavenly network was now standing at the pinnacle of the cultivation realm. But Lu Shu could not bring himself to celebrate it at all. He hoped Nia Ting had not made it because of him. Then, Lu Shu had come to realize that something was wrong. According to the report, those beyond Class A would be able to form and nourish their own universe. This was true. Yet, Lu Shu suddenly remembered that his celestial map had been a complete universe since the very beginning. Casting aside the fact that one would no longer have to rely on the spirit chi of nature, all other practitioners would have been able to initiate at least some form of communication with the heaven and earth when they reached Class B, but Lu Shu did not feel it at all. Instead, he had been absorbing celestial powers and transmitting them to the other universe via the celestial map. What's more, the celestial map would repel any spirit chi like foreign substances. How willful! Lu Shu had never paid much attention to this before, as his only goal had been to become stronger. However, now that a revolutionary new state had appeared, Lu Shu was suddenly struck with the realization that his cultivation had always taken a different path from the rest. Which meant he had long since entered the so-called Shinsong Jing. Although he had not reached Nia Ting's state, his own universe had been formed a long time ago. However, there was no time for him to deliberate over this matter. He had to call Nia Ting immediately. Meanwhile, Nia Ting was standing on the debris of his Luhai Lane courtyard, which was only left with the walnut tree in its center. Nia Ting remained expressionless as Shi Xuejin complained like a grumpy civilian, "Sure, you can do your breakthrough as you please. But why did you have to destroy our courtyard? It's more than 500 years old." Nia Ting was silent as he had a guilty conscience too. He let Shi Xuejin complain if that would make him feel better. Suddenly his phone rang. Nia Ting took it out and saw Lu Shu's name on the screen. Nia Ting frowned, wondering why Lu Shu had called at this moment. Had he called to congratulate him? No way. Then, he pressed the button to answer his phone. Lu Shu laughed. "I heard that you got struck by lightning." From Nia Ting's distress, plus 666. He had finally taken his revenge. Chapter 767, The Meaning of Classes. Back then when Lu Shu had been struck by lightning, Nia Ting called him and asked, "I heard that you were struck by lightning? You were the boss of the heavenly network, yet you call me just to ask that? Were you really in that much of a rush?" Lu Shu had been upset over this for a very long time. Was he the kind of person to not bear grudges? No. Back then, Nia Ting had called him to ask about some details regarding the divine punishment. But during the call, he did not know what to say. His words thus became a taunt. This time, Lu Shu could finally take revenge. He felt as if he had advanced to the Shinsong Jingwan. Chen Zuan, who was living beside them, came to borrow things as the furniture and appliances in the house beside them were too old and had not been renewed. Thus, Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao often came over to borrow things. Lu Xiaoyu expressionlessly looked at Chen Zuan. "When will you buy new appliances for your home? I'll tell you that we're only lending the house to you guys. Once that old man returns, you have to give way to him." "Yes, yes, yes," agreed Chen Zuan happily. They were quite comfortable staying here. Lu Xiaoyu had ensured that the courtyards remained pleasant and peaceful. Although the house was very small, where else would they be able to find such an environment? Furthermore, he did not receive pocket money from home under the pretense of training him. As a result, he could not afford a nice home with just his salary from the heavenly network. Lu Shu happily said, "Fatty, stay behind and eat dinner with us. Call Qiu Qiao over too." Chen Zuan suddenly shivered. "Brother Shu, have I done anything wrong recently? Why are you saying that for?" Lu Shu's expression darkened. "I'm just inviting you for a meal. I'm in a good mood today, so I'll cook something good for you." Lu Shu went out to buy ingredients after he finished speaking. Chen Zuan was dumbfounded. He looked at Lu Xiaoyu. "It's rare that Brother Shu is treating us to a meal. I'm so happy." Lu Xiaoyu was unhappy. "What gives you the right to talk about Lu Shu like that? Who are you talking to?" From Chen Zuan's distress, plus 199. Chen Zuan finally understood. No matter what Lu Shu's mood was, Lu Xiaoyu would always side with him. Wait. Chen Zuan suddenly felt a shiver down his spine. What could make Brother Shu so happy? Oh no. Don't tell me that he provoked Principal Nye again. He did not even have to think to derive an answer. Lu Shu was willing to remain silent for 2 weeks just to humiliate Nye Ting. With this fact in mind, one would understand what was going on between Lu Shu and Nye Ting. Chen Zuan was scared out of his wits. He returned home and looked at Cheng Qiuqiao. Cheng Qiuqiao could feel his hairs standing up. "Brother Zuan, you will get a girlfriend. I'm not that kind of person." Chen Zuan had a melancholic expression on his face. "What do you understand? Let me tell you. Our species research specialization might be done for." At the same time, the entire realm of cultivation was shocked by the fact that Nye Ting had advanced beyond Class A. Everyone had thought that Class A was the limit of human potential. But suddenly, someone had stopped the divine punishment and announced that Class A was not the end. This was very shocking. The new class was also announced by the heavenly network, Shensong Jing. It was made up of only 3 words in Chinese. If it were to be translated into other languages, who knows how long it would become. But no matter how long the name was, the name always had to be translated. In the past, the classes were named Ab-Def. But now, there was a class name that was in Chinese. This was very odd. It was like playing bumper cars at a theme park, then suddenly riding a roller coaster. They were 2 very different things. But no matter what, people had to accept this. In the past, the classes were named Ab-Def because the Golden Foundation was the strongest. They were the first to announce the classes. But now, things were different. Nye Ting was the first to advance to Shensong Jing. It was up to him to decide the definition. If he wanted it to be in Chinese, then it would be in Chinese. This was like in the past, when Chen Bailey wanted to change the names of the classes to Jia, Yi, Bing, and Dingwen. They wanted to get rid of foreign influence and establish their own structure. Some said that it was not satisfying to not have a few English words in their speech. It was fine if you did not have the vocabulary to describe the classes, but if you just wanted to act, you would sound very ignorant. Nye Ting had used Chinese to define Shensong Jing to tell the entire realm of cultivation that the heavenly network was the strongest. At that moment, heavenly network members who had been sent to work overseas as young men saw that the new definition was in Chinese, or had been translated from Chinese. They were very touched. Some were calm on the surface, but when they thought about this at night, they were so moved that they could not sleep. Some were even brimming with tears. This was significant, and was also a symbol. It was not that they were impressive just because they had come up with a name. They were willing to leave their homes and live in constant danger overseas precisely because of their beliefs. Taniguchi Bandai, who had helped Lu Shu at the Collection of Gods, quietly sat in front of her desk. She was now an employee in a company under the collection of gods. When the news came, Taniguchi Bandai quietly looked out the window. She suddenly wanted to visit her father's grave and tell him about the news. What they had maintained was not for nothing. The courtyard at Luhai Lane was being rebuilt. Sure Shuejin stood on the rubble and directed the workers with a melancholic expression on his face. The one laying bricks over there, don't injure the walnut tree. Be more careful. Nieting was hiding in a base underneath Lingjing Lane. He did not return to the courtyard in Luhai Lane. On one hand, he did not want Sure Shuejin to nag him. On the other hand, he did not want to worry about rebuilding the courtyard. He was still very busy with the heavenly network. Sure Shuejin could not help but ponder. Lu Shu and Nieting constantly humiliated each other, but he was always the one cleaning up the mess. Why? From Sure Shuejin's distress, plus 399. But now, Nieting needed a quiet place to stabilize his class. He also had to readjust the Heavenly Network's policies. The Heavenly Network was now very strong. None of the other large organizations dared to provoke the Heavenly Network. In the past, they had wanted to take the chance while Nieting was weak after breaking through to kill him, but it failed. Now, they could only pray that the Heavenly Network did not come to settle accounts with them so quickly. But only Sure Shuejin knew that Nieting could no longer make a move. This was a very highly classified secret. If the puppet masters were right, a battle between two Class A experts could shake this weak world. Now that Nieting had advanced to Shinsongjing, the world would not be able to handle the impact of his power. Chapter 768, The Seven Major Colleges. According to Nieting, he said that he felt as if the world was breaking apart. When Nieting used his powers, it would be in conflict with the rules of the world. He could make a move, but there was a high possibility that he would destroy the area beyond repair. This was very frightening. No one knew what would happen after the world broke apart. Thus, to outsiders, the Heavenly Network was now much more powerful than everyone else. The large organizations, such as the Bishop and the Saint, all sought ways to break through as well. Some organizations hoped that they would be able to produce Class A experts as well and seek new heights. But only Sure Shuejin knew that after Network had advanced to Shinsongjing, the strength of the Heavenly Network had instead regressed. They were supposed to have the strongest combat power, but Nieting had reached a point where he could not even attack. Of course, total destruction was still possible. Nieting was like a mobile and intelligent nuclear bomb that could fire several times. The price to pay was mutual destruction. Sure Shuejin and Nieting were certain that the puppet masters already knew what was beyond Class A, thus, they knew the consequences of a full-blown battle between two Class A's. They also knew what would happen after Nieting advanced to Shinsongjing. Back then, Cloudy and Tiger Ji did not fight Nieting. From the beginning, they had their eyes on Li Xianyi. Back then, during that stormy night, the puppet masters and the Golden Foundation had become enemies. This was a life-and-death matter. A battle was bound to break out someday. If the battle really happened, the Heavenly Network would probably have to side with the Golden Foundation. This was the rule of the world. The puppet masters were outsiders. Everyone knew the reason why the Golden Foundation existed and the details behind it. Thus, even if a very strong expert appeared, they were not afraid. They would not be scared even if the Saint broke through. They were scared of the unknown. No one knew what was behind the barrier to the exiled land. No one knew what the puppet masters represented either. Back then, Nieting wanted to chase and kill the Saint and the Bishop, but he could not. Furthermore, Lu Shu's call made Nieting so angry that he almost grew unstable. After Coral followed Chen Bailey and Nieting back to the capital, she did not return to Luo City immediately. Instead, she requested to visit the cemetery. Sure Shuejin was slightly puzzled. The only link that Coral had to the cemetery was Lu Xiao. But Coral had lost her memory. What was happening? Before Nieting went into hiding, he had told Zhong Yutong that no one from the Luotian Cultivation College Species Research Specialization would be allowed to participate in the competition among the 7 major cultivation college. To be honest, he was not targeting Lu Shu. He had made this decision to protect the students from the other cultivation colleges. Zhong Yutong agreed with Nieting's decision. After all, the other principals were his colleagues. If Lu Shu created a disaster, it would be hard to face them. It was entirely possible for Lu Shu to do that. Zhong Yutong was in his office discussing the management of the black market with Yu Mingyu. Recently, more and more secret practitioners had come to the black market. In the past, they had hoped that everyone would congregate, making it easier to control them. Now, the Heavenly Network wanted to make greater use of the secret practitioners. The problem was determining what the secret practitioners would do. The secret practitioners could not be considered weak. Yu Mingyu wanted to build a massive secret practitioner trading system to gather training resources scattered all over the world. But they had to wait for the situation to mature. They could not be rash. Suddenly, there was a call. Zhong Yutong picked up the call. The person on the line shouted, "Principal, Principal. The species research specialization is going to cause big trouble." When Zhong Yutong heard the words species research specialization, he became anxious. "We're done. We're all done for." Lu Shu, Lu Xiaoyu, Chao Qingxi, Chen Zuan, and Cheng Qiuqiao were stuck in the laboratory all day. They could not dissect their specimens. Thus, they could only gamble or watch movies. They even played games. The facilities outside the laboratory were very complete. There were many computer rooms, as well as media equipment. Lu Shu looked at the news on the Golden Foundation forum. The mutated creatures had created some trouble again. The mutation of plants, which everyone was most afraid of, had not happened yet. However, the invasion of plant species in some areas had become more vicious. Earlier, there had been a plague of locusts in northern China. The mutated locusts were as large as a thumb. At first, the Heavenly Network was very worried as although they did not attack humans, they ate crops very quickly, faster than in the past. But before the Heavenly Network could assemble forces to get rid of the locusts, the locals had banded together to exterminate them. At first, everyone was rather afraid. After all, they were mutated locusts. They sounded very frightening. Later on, everyone realized that the mutated locusts did not attack humans. They grew more daring. With the mindset that if you eat my crops, I will destroy you, there were humans everywhere the locusts went. For a period of time, there were more locusts caught than locusts running around. Some people even started to gather locusts. Typically, locusts were sold for $60 per kilogram. But the mutated locusts were sold for $180 per kilogram. They were earning profits. In the end, the intelligent insects had no choice but to run north. The entirety of Russia suffered. The locals felt that it was somewhat of a pity. These mutated insects were rather tasty. Why did they run overseas? Do come back and visit. But the mutated plants were different. Everyone found out that many animals had not changed their eating habits, but many plants took in everything that was nutritious to them. This was frightening. While Lu Shu was reading the news, a movie was playing in the laboratory. A group of people was gathered on a sofa in the projector room. They were watching a horror movie about a murder. Lu Xiaoyu enjoyed the entire show. But when she turned around, she suddenly realized that Cheng Qiuqiao and Chen Zuan had curled up like a ball. They seemed very scared. She laughed coldly. Was it that scary? Aren't you embarrassed? Chen Zuan felt very helpless after being humiliated by Lu Xiaoyu. He pointed at Chao Qingxi. If you want to watch a movie, then watch it. Can you stop her from writing things down? We are very scared. Lu Shu was speechless. Lu Xiaoyu was silent. Even if Chao Qingxi had always been assigned on assassination missions, taking notes while watching a movie was too much. Lu Shu thought about it and said, "I've decided. We will participate in the competition among the 7 major cultivation colleges." Chao Qingxi put down her notebook. "I thought that we weren't allowed to participate?" Lu Shu raised his eyebrows. "If Nie Ting doesn't allow us, does it mean that we can't participate?" Thus, the species research specialization started to eradicate everyone in the Luotian Cultivation College. Chapter 769, Father Lu Shu. The combat specialization had their lessons in a training room. Lu Shu and Lu Xiaoyu had seen it before. Back then when they saw the room, they felt that it was very high-end. In fact, it was so high-end that they did not know what the machines were used for. The combat specialization students sat at the machines and practiced. Lu Shu looked through the glass wall that surrounded the training space and saw that there were 2 students testing out their awakened abilities. Lu Shu knew that there were many awakened and trained students in the combat specialization. Furthermore, their awakened abilities were suited for group combat. This glass classroom was not made out of a normal material. If not, how would it be able to stand the impact from metahumans? They now had free time to practice. Lu Shu knocked on the door. "Who is the class monitor?" Everyone slowly stopped and looked at Lu Shu, but no one spoke to him. Some people softly passed on the message. Lu Shu saw a group of people jogging in before they realized that he was in the room. One of the students looked at Lu Shu with some doubt. A group of people started to surround them. From their point of view, Lu Shu definitely did not have good intentions coming here. Some of them recognized Lu Shu, Lu Xiaoyu, and Chao Qingxi. Some did not. But this was not important. They would eventually know. In reality, it was not possible for someone to immediately become well-known throughout school when the cultivation college had just started. Students would interact most with other students from the same specialization. Each specialization was like a small country. Not everyone liked sharing gossip. But the class monitor of the combat specialization, Class A genius Li Zimu, was like a shining star. He was a thunder type and had extraordinary talents. Thus, it was natural for the teachers to focus on him. Li Zimu walked towards Lu Shu. The students from the combat specialization naturally surrounded him. Although everyone knew that the species research specialization in their cultivation college was very strong, they could not be frightened. Li Zimu stood in front of Lu Shu. The students from the combat specialization were nervous. Li Zimu said, "Brother Shu, what's wrong?" Everyone grew silent. "Brother Shu? Why are you so polite?" This was very different from what they had expected. They should have been at daggers drawn. But they did not know that back then, when Hao Jichao had encircled and intercepted Lu Shu, Li Zimu was there. He even saw how Lu Shu had punched a lost Heavenly Network member. Back then, he was still ignorant, yet he clearly remembered his encounter with someone of the same age as him. He was far too frightening. Back then, Li Zimu was still very weak. He was amazed by Lu Shu's power. He just never had a chance to talk to him. Unlike ordinary students, the circle of Class A geniuses was very small. When they went to the base in Lingjing Lane, they were very aware of the disparity between the treatment they received and the treatment Lu Shu received. When Li Zimu saw the portrait of the 9th Heavenly King along the corridor, he had guessed that that person was probably Lu Shu. As Lu Shu's fanboy, he would definitely follow news about Lu Shu. Thus, he knew that Lu Shu's whereabouts had always been a mystery. Now, the students from the combat specialization were dumbfounded. The fiercest student in their class had become Lu Shu's fanboy. When Lu Shu saw Li Zimu, he knew that he was right. Back then, when he was being chased by Hao Jichao, the current Sanzhou overall commander and 2 other members had been punched by Lu Shu. Li Zimu had been at the scene. He had been talking about earning money to buy 4 buns. Dot. Lu Shu wanted to settle things once and for all, but he did not know what to feel from Li Zimu's politeness. Are you participating in the competition between the 7 major cultivation colleges? Of course. Li Zimu was surprised. Think about it again, said Lu Shu. No, we're not participating. Li Zimu understood what Lu Shu meant. From Li Zimu's distress, plus 166. Okay. Lu Shu nodded his head. He turned and left. Come drink with me when you have the time. The group of students looked on as Lu Shu walked away with his team. His figure was vaguely visible in the scattered light shining on the corridor. The 5 of them walked down the corridor in a straight line. The young man in the lead was like the father of the mafia in a movie. Who do we find next? The investigation specialization? There were soft chatters along the corridor. The combat specialization students gasped in shock. The species research specialization was up to some trouble. Did they not want the other specializations to participate in the competition among the 7 major cultivation colleges? By the time Zhong Yutong rushed over, Lu Shu and the rest had found the last specialization. The Techniques Research Specialization. The Techniques Research Specialization and the Species Research Specialization were considered civilian jobs. The weaker students would often choose these 2 specializations. Thus, when Lu Shu and the rest appeared at their door, all the students were scared stiff. The class monitor asked softly, "Is something the matter? Are you going to participate in the competition among the 7 major cultivation colleges?" Lu Shu asked. The class monitor waved. No, no. When Zhong Yutong saw this, he gasped in shock. Lu Shu must have intimidated all the other specializations. Zhong Yutong was very annoyed. Lu Shu, what are you doing? Lu Shu said righteously, I asked around and it seems like the other specializations are not interested in participating in the competition among the 7 major cultivation colleges. But this is a moment of glory for our school. Why is everyone unwilling to participate? If no one goes, then the weakest species research specialization will go. The Luotian Cultivation College absolutely cannot show weakness in this area. From Zhong Yutong's distress, plus 666. What? Nothing good would happen when Lu Shu spoke righteously. The Technique Research Specialization students by the side felt that if they wanted to participate, they would be beaten up first. Zhong Yutong felt that he could not handle this. Lu Shu's fierce name had spread throughout the entire Luotian Cultivation College. The investigation specialization did not want to give in, but they were defeated in a fight. Zhong Yutong passed this message to Lu Jinglane in the capital. When Nie Ting saw this news, he almost wanted to kill someone. But he had to control himself. It was not that he could not control his strength. The path beyond Class A required him to create his own laws and world. Thus, the strength that he used had to follow the laws. These laws were incompatible with the laws of the current world. It was not an overstatement to say that Nie Ting was a small world with his own laws. Thus, the 2 worlds would repel each other. But the world that he was in now seemed to have been broken, thus, it was unable to bear much burden. Chapter 770, Cultivation College Forum. The Luotian Cultivation College had created a small forum. At first, there were no intentions of creating this forum. After all, the students were satisfied with talking to the people in their specialization. But after Lu Shu had eradicated everyone from the competition, everyone suddenly realized that they were not satisfied just talking to people from their own specialization. Thus, the Luotian Cultivation College Forum was born. After the forum was created, people started to spread the message to the other specializations. But no one dared to tell the species research specialization. Everyone discussed about this on the forum. Slowly, people started to reveal what Lu Shu had done in the Luo City Daoyuan class and the Beimang remains. At first, those who did not know much about Lu Shu were very shocked. Was Lu Shu so amazing? Looking at Lu Shu's dark past, they sympathized with his classmates. Some felt that there were people sabotaging Lu Shu on purpose. After all, Lu Shu did not just annoy people in the Luotian Cultivation College. Some asked their Luo City Daoyuan classmates for confirmation. When the Luo City Daoyuan class students saw the post, for some reason, it meant a lot to them. It was as if they were recalling the events that had happened. Of course, they did not know some things. Thus, there were claims on the forum that were hard to be certain of. For example, Zhang San said something, while Li Si said something else. In the end, no one knew who to believe. But everyone looked at the ID of the user who uploaded the post. Lu Li. The Luo City Daoyuan class students had a dignified expression on his face. They confirmed it should be true. After they had confirmed that Lu Shu had committed these extraordinary deeds, they were amazed. Are you sure that he is a Heavenly Network member? Isn't he a demon king? Has anyone been able to defeat him? Someone commented, "You can't defeat him, brother." The species research specialization will represent the Luotian Cultivation College in the competition. I don't know how the other colleges will see us when they find out that the species research specialization is taking part. Who can stop the Demon King? It's impossible. Suddenly, someone posted a comment. Demon King sounds horrible. Call him Lord Lu. What? 666. Lu Shu was making dinner at home. Lu Xiaoyu and Little Fury were waiting at the dining table. Suddenly, Chen Zuan and Cheng Qiuqiao came. Lu Shu glanced at them. What do you want to borrow today? No. We're just here for food, said Chen Zuan shamelessly. Brother Shu, did you know that a Luotian Cultivation College forum has suddenly appeared? Lu Shu was dumbfounded. There was such a good thing. This was like being gifted a pillow just as he was about to take a nap. Yesterday, Lu Shu had enjoyed earning distress points from his classmates. Now, a forum had been created. How kind. Chen Zuan was surprised by Lu Shu's words. Brother Shu, be careful. You are the main topic of discussion on the forum. You even have a new nickname now. What nickname? Lu Shu cheerily laughed. So he had a nickname now. It must be an intimidating one. After all, he had scared everyone else yesterday. Lord Lu, said Chen Zuan. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. It's Lord Lu, confirmed Cheng Qiuqiao. Lu Shu's expression darkened. Straighten your tongue and talk to me again. Lu is your surname. Chen Zuan saw that Lu Shu was about to go crazy and hurriedly explained. From Lu Shu's distress, plus 666. When Lu Shu saw the distress points, he was dumbfounded. The distress points had appeared on Lu Xiaoyu's page. He put down the spatula and wiped his hands. He walked out of the kitchen and saw Lu Xiaoyu secretly bringing Little Fury out. Lu Shu said, "Stop right there. Come back, the two of you. Don't run away. Did you do this?" Little Fury was frightened. It took out its small notebook and wrote on it. It's not me. You've got it wrong. No. I love my country. Save my mother. Lu Shu was dumbfounded. What does that have to do with anything? Go and stand in that corner. He took out his phone and looked for the forum post that Chen Zuan had talked about. When he saw the ID, his expression darkened. Lu Xiaoshu. Come. Lu Xiaoyu, explain what happened. Lu Shu was certain that Lu Xiaoyu and Little Fury were behind this. The distress points told the truth. With the distress points, he was Lu Sherlock Holmes' Shu. Lu Xiaoyu thought about it and said, it was Little Fury. I have nothing to do with it. From Little Fury's distress, plus 666. Of course, Little Fury did not want to take the blame. It quickly wrote on its notebook. I only gave a suggestion. But it wasn't just me. Lu Xiaoyu agreed.
Ha! Ha!
Lu Shu's expression darkened. So you dared to push the blame? Come, reenact the scene for me. Let me see whose fault it is. Lu Shu laughed coldly. Little Fury thought about it and wrote for Lu Xiaoyu. Let's give Lu Shu a nickname. How about Lord Lu? Lu Shu looked at Lu Xiaoyu. Lu Xiaoyu calmly said to Little Fury, no, we can't do that. Little Fury was confused. From Little Fury's distress, plus 999. The human world was so menacing. Little Fury patted its chest and had a shocked expression on its face. Lu Xiaoyu, doesn't your conscience hurt? Lu Xiaoyu acted as if nothing had happened. She picked Little Fury up and threw it out of the window. She thought about it and said, the chief culprit has been found. But don't blame Little Fury. It was just playing around. I didn't expect it to spread. Okay. Lu Shu's palm was on his forehead. Stop talking. My head hurts. From Lu Shu's distress, plus 899. He was a demon king, ready to collect distress points. How did he become Lord Lu? This was not right. Lu Shu looked through the forum. It seemed as if this nickname was very well received. The name of Demon King had momentarily disappeared. Everyone was calling him Lord Lu. Slowly, the forum grew viral. Students from other cultivation colleges discovered the forum and wanted to join in the fun. At first, it was only for Luotian Cultivation College students to play around. But overnight, it became a place where students from all 7 major colleges gathered to talk. All the colleges were gathered here. The administrators of the forum gave in. When they saw this, they changed the name of the forum from Luotian Cultivation College Forum to Cultivation College Forum.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens to tell us things that we better.